The U.S. Submarine Force said the missions were mounted in support of the Pentagon's free and open Indo Pacific policy. The exercise is aimed at countering China's operations in the South China Sea. Reports indicate that at least 7 submarines, including all 4 Guam-based attack submarines, the San Diego-based USS Alexandria, and multiple Hawaii-based vessels were part of this. Rear Admiral Blake Converse, Pacific Sub-Force Commander, who's based at Pearl Harbor, said, "Our operations are a demonstration of our willingness to defend our interests and freedoms under international law." Viewers may note that the U.S. Navy has maintained a flotilla of warships in the Western Pacific as a show of force in the region, amid raging tensions with China in the South China Sea. U.S. Defence Secretary Mark Esper put the situation in context. Many countries have turned inward to recover from the pandemic, and in the meantime, our strategic competitors are attempting to exploit this crisis to their benefit at the expense of others. In this video, Defense Updates analyzes why China's submarine fleet has no chance as it faces U.S. Navy attack submarines. Let's get started. This video is sponsored by the free-to-play military vehicle combat game War Thunder. We talk a lot about military vehicles on this channel, but what about trying them out for yourself? In War Thunder, you can choose from more than 1,200 playable vehicles from the 1930s to the 1990s and go to battle on more than 80 theaters of war. You can fly aircraft, helicopters, drive tanks, and command ships of all types and sizes, which have been carefully recreated from their real-world counterparts. It's available as a free download on PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One with cross-platform support. So grab your friends and give it a try. All viewers of Defense Updates that register using the link in the description below will also get a free premium tank, aircraft, or ship and 3 days of premium account time as a bonus. People's Liberation Army Navy has a fleet of conventionally powered as well as nuclear-powered submarines. There are about 3 nuclear-powered attack submarines of Type 091 Han class and 6 of Type 093 Shang class in active service. Type 091 is a first-generation nuclear attack submarine produced by the People's Republic of China. They were the first nuclear-powered submarine employed by the People's Liberation Army Navy Submarine Force, and the first indigenously produced nuclear attack submarines in Asia. They displace 5,500 tons when submerged and have a length of 98 meters. The Type 091 is extremely noisy and has poor radiation shielding, a result of being based on 1950s technology. It cannot launch missiles while submerged. These are mainly operated in local waters. Overall, the submarine's tactical utility is limited against modern combatants. Type 093 class is a second generation of nuclear-powered attack submarines deployed by the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy Submarine Force. Type 093 is estimated to have roughly 7,000-ton displacement when submerged and 110 meters long. Type 093 has a G variant that's longer and has a vertical launching system (VLS) for YJ-18 supersonic anti-ship missiles and anti-ship variants of the CJ-10 cruise missile. In 2009, USN ONI listed the Type 093 as being noisier than Soviet-built Project 671 RTM Victor III subs, which entered service in 1979. The conventionally powered submarines consist of Yuan class, Kilo class, Song class, and Ming class. China has 17 Type 039A Yuan class diesel-electric attack submarines (SSKs). These submarines are 77.6 meters long, with an 8.4 meter wide beam, and can travel up to 20 knots when submerged. Their weapon systems include torpedoes and anti-ship missiles. China possesses 12 Russian-origin Kilo-class submarines, 2 Project 877 vessels, 2 Project 636 vessels, and 8 Project 636M vessels. Kilo-class vessels are about 73 meters long, have a displacement of 3,000 to 3,950 tons when submerged, and can travel 20 knots when submerged. The Kilo class has seen upgrades from the original Project 877 boats. These can be armed with torpedoes, as well as land attack and anti-ship cruise missiles. China has 13 Type 039 Song-class diesel-electric attack submarines. These submarines are 74.9 meters long, have a displacement of 2,250 tons, and can travel up to 22 knots when submerged. Their weapon systems include torpedoes and anti-ship missiles. China possesses 15 Type 035 Ming-class diesel-electric attack submarines. Type 035 is a heavily improved design of the older Type 033 Romeo-class submarines, which were built in China from 1962 to 1984. These submarines are 76 meters long, have a displacement of around 2,110 tons, and can travel up to 18 knots when submerged. Many variants of Type 035 class submarines have been developed, such as Type 035G and Type 035B. Ming-class submarines possess 533mm torpedo tubes, and Type 035B are capable of firing cruise missiles from its torpedo tubes. U.S. Navy deploys only nuclear-powered submarines, because of which they have practically unlimited range and endurance. The U.S. brings a lot to the table. It has 28 Los Angeles-class submarines, 3 Seawolf-class, and 19 Virginia-class attack subs in active service. Los Angeles-class submarines have a length of around 110 meters and displacement of around 7,000 tons. According to the U.S. Department of Defense, the top speed of the submarines of the Los Angeles class is over 25 knots. That's 46 kilometers per hour or 29 miles per hour, although the actual maximum is classified. The U.S. Navy gives the maximum operating depth of the Los Angeles class as 650 feet or 200 meters. These can deploy Mark 48 torpedo, Tomahawk land attack missile, Harpoon anti-ship missile. The Seawolf-class submarine was intended to combat the threat of advanced Soviet ballistic missile submarines, such as the Typhoon class, and attack submarines, such as the Akula class, in a deep ocean environment. Seawolf-class submarines have a length of 108 meters and displacement of around 9,100 tons. These can move at speeds of 35 knots, that's 40 miles per hour or 65 kilometers per hour, and can move to a depth of more than 1,600 feet or 490 meters. Seawolf is considered to be the most stealthy submarine in the world. Virginia-class submarine has a length of 115 meters and a displacement of around 7,900 tons. These are acknowledged to be able to move to depths of 240 meters or 800 feet, but allegedly capable of going down to 490 meters or 1,600 feet. Virginia-class is designed to replace older Los Angeles-class submarines, many of which have already been decommissioned. The Virginia-class was intended in part as a less expensive alternative to the Seawolf-class submarines. The submarines of the Virginia-class are designed for a broad spectrum of open ocean and littoral missions. These submarines can fire Tomahawk cruise missiles, launch Mark 48 torpedoes, lay Mark 60 Captor encapsulated torpedo mines, and has an integral lock-out, lock-in chamber incorporated into the hull for special operations. China does possess an impressive undersea fleet. Over the last decade, it's improved on the hardware as well as the training of its personnel. But there's still a lot of issues. China's largest submarine of Jin class suddenly surfaced among Vietnamese fishing boats in the South China Sea last year. Nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines, such as the Jin class, is primarily intended to remain undetected by staying underwater for long periods of time and act as a second strike option against a surprise attack by an enemy nation. There's no reason to sacrifice the location. Speculations indicate that something went wrong and the vessel was forced to surface unwillingly. U.S. submarine force is much more matured. The hardware is far superior when it comes to quality. For instance, these sensors have a much better range and are way more quieter. This basically means the U.S. submarines will be able to detect the Chinese ones and get the first shot, which is the critical factor. The U.S. Navy is also better trained, and the tactics employed by it are expected to be better than those of the Chinese, as they have more experience and have been part of many real-life encounters dating back to the Cold War standoff. Overall, it can be said that the U.S. has a sharp edge against China when it comes to submarine fleet.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting, and kindly provide your feedback in the comment section. This will help us improve.